everybody. Welcome back to Decide to Dominate. We've had a little bit of a break. We did Waste Management Open, Super Bowl. I had a little trip to Paris in there. Good to be back in the seat here with DJ. And we have a very special guest today. And I feel like anytime it's like a Penn State team, it's almost like you need to do the intro. So I'm just going to kick it right over to you and say, introduce this handsome man on the phone with us right now.
Mr. Q. Well, Q, of course, is nicknamed Quintus McDonald, or should I say Quintus Alonzo McDonald. Yes, former this and former that. Q and I first met at Penn State. He was not just a normal linebacker at linebacker U. I mean, he came in with a big number on his back, and really just an incredible guy. Matter of fact, it wasn't until maybe 15 or 20 years later, Q, now I know this is a long intro, but I need to say this, that he and I spoke at a neighborhood event, and I couldn't believe how great of a speaker he was. I mean, I knew he could speak, but he inspired me. And normally I'm the guy that's inspiring others.
Right.
And ever since then we've done some very interesting and great things together. And just I've been looking forward to this show for a long time. And so
thanks for joining us today,
Mr. Q.
Outstanding. Thank you for having me. And that day in that community is etched in my mind. I mean, that is my passion, is to help build communities by building people, introducing people to the one that is the builder. I don't get to do it, but I get to introduce folks to the God of creation that is the builder of all things, the creator of all things. And DJ put me in the place, and all of these souls that you could feel the thirst, their hunger for something greater than what they were existing in. So that's when the Holy Spirit that's moving right now, that's when the Holy Spirit just begins to speak. So we give way to the Spirit to move and do what it wants to do, what that person wants to do through us as individuals, as the man that I am. So I'm just grateful for that opportunity and what it has, like Deke said, it has given us the opportunity to walk out many other things and to find our path together for the building of the kingdom of heaven right here on earth.
Yeah, lately on the shows we've been going down the faith road, and I love how we kind of just got to it right there out of the gate. So that's a pretty nice intro right there.
Yeah, that's Q at work. But Q, let's talk about. So before you came to Penn State, which was in '84, that was my sophomore year. You weren't just the highest recruited linebacker in the country, but you were actually the highest athlete recruited.
USA Defensive Player of the Year in high school, right? Like for the entire nation.
Yeah. Parade magazine too.
Parade magazine, I love it. DJ said when you showed up on campus, the whole team was like, "We got to get this guy. Whatever we got to do, we got to get this guy."
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a pretty amazing ride. You know, the incredible piece about it is God's timing. It just the way that things. I come from the school has a storied history with athletics, specifically football. From Aubrey Lewis, who went on to Notre Dame, was the first Black captain of the track team, first Black participant on the track team at Notre Dame, became a captain of the football program, did a bunch of incredible things back in New Jersey. And then there was person after person, Johnny Cummings, who went on to Pitt, whose receiver was Darryl Giles, who went on to Penn State, came into Penn State, I believe, with Deke the same year Deke came in. And so there was a spotlight on my high school, and we had a guy named Brandy Wells who was a year ahead of me, and we were playing in a conference. In our conference, um, Montclair, Passaic, and Belleville, all three of us were in the top 5 in the nation as
Wow.
far as high school
In
football
one high
programs.
school conference.
Yeah. So there was a spotlight there, and people were coming to see Craig Hayward, Ironhead Hayward, and
Mhm.
Mike Murphy was a big running back for Belleville, and David Grant was an All-American offensive defensive lineman for Belleville, um, and Brandy Wells, who was my teammate. Folks were coming to see them, and then all of a sudden, this skinny, you know, at the time, I was about 200 pounds. Defensive end is showing up, wrecking the field every time we played somebody. So it was an opportunity that obviously I took full advantage of in high school, and was able to just love to compete, man. Just absolutely love to compete. That's in our blood. There was a thing about Montclair pride, growing up, where when we were little kids, could not wait to put on that blue jersey. And and we we looked up to all of the players who were playing in the high school. I mean, they were like little demigods to us. And it wasn't, I'm Earl Campbell on, when we're out playing sandlot football. You didn't want to be Earl Campbell or Walter Payton or somebody, Vince Ferragamo, Eric Dickerson. You wanted to be whoever that running back, quarterback was at the high school. That's who we were
Amazing.
trying to be, and it created something very, very special in our town and in our athletic program overall. So I was blessed to have all of those things come together in perfect timing, for me, and having the capacity to sit down and have conversations with reporters, to not give one word answers, to really talk about what it is that they wanted to hear, to be able to hear what they were asking that was outside of the words that they were speaking, and give that to them, helped tremendously. It helped tremendously. So, do I think that I was the best football player in the nation? Could have been, but maybe not. But overall, because of everything that God gifted me with, I was able, and the timing, I was able to capitalize and leverage all of that. So it was a great time. It was a great, great time.
Man, it's interesting something you said there. Made me think about when Mike Tomlin, obviously longtime coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, got interviewed, and he was mentioning how like you had all these pro guys, but he grew up in Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area, and that he loved watching DJ play. And he
Mhm.
said DJ's name like 5 times during this interview. And I'm like, we need to get Tomlin on Decide to Dominate show. By the way, we need to make that happen. But me being a college athlete and not playing professionally, obviously, I think we do as collegiate and even high school athletes do have a lot of influence on like especially younger kids. It's sometimes you think of like a pro athlete like an Otani or like a Patrick Mahomes. It's like that's like too far almost to go away. But the high school guy, the college guy, they're like right there. You see them at the grocery store. You can aspire to be them. It's a little bit more of like a medium almost contact. And so there's a lot of high school and college players out there. I think it's just something to keep in mind for all of them, like how much influence we have, right? Like
Absolutely.
on the younger generation.
Yeah,
So
that's a great point. Great point. And so, Q, to that, did you recognize that influence at the high school? I mean, in high school?
I absolutely recognized it. It it was evident to me actually freshman year, when I got my first, um, legal job. I was working for the Parks and Recreation Parks Department. Um, we had a Essex day camp that had a swimming pool. That's where the ice rink was and all of that stuff. And my job was to make sure that everything was clean, to keep the place clean with all of these little kids running around. And at that point, um, I had done some good things, even at in the eighth grade, seventh and eighth grade. By the time we were in high school, was doing some great things. But the kids, those younger children, looked up to me because I was now in high school. Even though my jersey as a freshman was red, and then the JV was gold, they knew who I was. They knew exactly who I was, and we had great time, throwing them around in the swimming pool. I mean, you could see the influence. It was evident, and being able to have conversations with them to talk about their grades. What are you doing in school? You're having fun in the summer, that's great. But what are you doing in school? That matters. And to see the children, or the younger children, because I was a child as well,
Mm-hmm.
but to see the younger generations, as you asked that question, looking up, absolutely, there was influence. It was evident, and that goes back to that town, the Montclair. I mean, that's just the way it was. As you climbed and ascended from middle school to the high school, you have now reached a place where the the fifth, sixth, and seventh graders are like, wow, wow. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the influence was definitely there, and very apparent.
So I have a question for you. Was Penn State your number one choice, or and if so, kind of why, and like what led you to Penn State?
Uh, it was not my number one choice. Um, it was number two, and I it was Providence that led me to Penn State. I have no doubt in my mind at this point in my life. I have no doubt that it was Providence that led me there. After in my heart, Penn State was number one because of the atmosphere. I'm a country boy by heart, even though I grew up in the north in New Jersey, but I was born in rural North Carolina, country town
Hold on, real quick interjection. Where were you born in North Carolina?
in
Rockingham.
Rockingham.
Oh, okay. I was born and raised in North Carolina too, so that's why I was
Oh,
asking. Northeastern North Carolina, Currituck near the Outer Banks, so not too far
okay.
from here in
Okay.
Hampton Roads. All
That was
right.
beautiful, beautiful country over
I
there.
knew I knew I liked something about you right out of the gate. Good Carolina boy.
That's right. That's exactly right. So the the atmosphere there, the physical beauty had me drawn in. It grabbed my heart.
Hmm.
I had I had grown up watching um, the Trojans. There was something about that Trojan, the warrior, the gladiator guy, and then playing in a coliseum. All of
Mhm.
those things. Uh, so, and they were offering me an opportunity to play. I mean, just up front, look, you can play offense, you can play defense. Wherever we can use you, we'll use you. To DJ's point of being recruited as an athlete, um, when I talked with Penn State, it was all about defense, which was fine with me. It's linebacker. People were talking about linebacker. That didn't even I didn't that didn't even really sit with me. It didn't. I just knew wherever I was going, doggone it, I was going to play. I get a chance to go out and run into people at a whole higher level. let's go. And what ended up changing everything was my mother. Actually, I played basketball as well in high school, and I was struggling to make the decision, and the coaches were really bothering my mother. I mean, they were showing up at her job. They were doing all kind of things that now I know was completely illegal.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't even realize that they only had three in-person visits. I mean, folks were at my games and at my house on a regular basis, and it was really beginning to wear on my mother. So this Friday night, I came in from a basketball game excited. We just beat a rival and going out to have fun, party and all of that. And she said, "You're going to make a decision tonight. You're not leaving this house." Make a decision. I'm like, what? You know, during this stretch of time, Artie Gigantino, who was the defensive coordinator at Southern Cal at the time, had shown up, and he had this big old cell phone. You remember when cell phones were like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he said, "This is the Quintus McDonald phone. This number is for you. When you're ready to make your decision, you call this number." Now, mind you, it's about 8:30 in the evening, when my mother is giving me these directions. So I made a decision. Okay, I'm going to Southern Cal. I'm going to be a Trojan. So I called up Franny Ganner, who was the offensive coordinator and the New Jersey recruiter, and I said, "Well, Fran, I'm going to Southern Cal," and he told me how disappointed he was, but he congratulated me. He said, "Well, let me call the big guy and let him know." I said, "Okay." So got off the phone with him, and I called Artie's cell phone, and it just rang and rang. About the fifth or sixth ring, I went ahead and hung up. And I'm walking out the house, and my mother said, "Well, what are you doing? What's the deal?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to Southern Cal," and I could see her countenance drop. Um, she said, "You're going all the way across the country and da 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 da." And I said, what Artie and them had said to me, "Well, it's a 4.5 hour drive to Penn State. It's a 5 hour flight to Southern Cal." That was their
That was our marketing, the sales pitch. Yeah.
marketing pitch, exactly. So she said, well, did you tell Franny?" I said, "Yeah, I told him." "What did he say?" I told her what he said, and she said, "Well, what did Artie say?" And I'm standing there blinking at her. She said, "Well, what did he say?" I said, "Well, he didn't answer the phone." "There you go. They're talking about this, that, and the other, and they don't answer the phone.
You don't even want to take your call.
And da 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 da." And she said, "You need to make a decision. Look at that. You're going to get all the way across the country, and that's what's going to happen." And da da da. So I called Franny back, and I was like, "Look, am I still welcome?" And Franny got to screaming and yelling on the phone. He was like, "Yeah, let me call Joe back and call the big guy back." And then, got on the phone with Joe, and the rest is history. But what I did not realize when I talk about the time difference, Artie was probably still on the practice field. So
Yeah.
Right.
and with all of what transpired at Penn State, I was thinking about this. I played for 3 state championships. We started the playoffs my sophomore year of high school, when the playoff system was implemented in New Jersey. So we played for 3 straight championships in high school, and then I played for 2 straight championships at the collegiate level.
Wow.
5 straight years of championship football. How blessed am I? I mean, that's just absolutely amazing. You don't hear that story very often. So when I say Providence, absolutely, and all of what I had a bumpy road at Penn State. It was a rocky road, but it has created the man that I am. And it's amazing that your title is "Decide to Dominate." That's the phrase that I gave to the defensive linemen the first time when Franklin gave us carte blanche to go and talk to the players, and Spencer brought me into the D line room. That was my speech to them. Every time you put your hand on the ground, decide to dominate. You only got so many snaps in your life of football. Every time you put your hand on the ground, you decide, "I'm going to dominate these 4 seconds, these 6 seconds." Decide to dominate. So this is boy, there it goes again. Ah!
I love it.
Yeah. So there you have
So
it.
from that, I always like to ask this questions like of DJ's teammates. From that run when you guys won the championship, either it was like a time during the season, even maybe during the game, before the game, it's a championship game, like one kind of memory that sticks out for you from that championship run you guys had, just in general, just like a certain moment.
the moment that sticks out really is being in the locker room after we lost in the Orange Bowl.
Mm,
That's exactly.
yeah,
And,
you kind of highlighted that too.
and guys making a decision right then
Hmm.
that we're coming back, we'll be back, and this won't happen. And this won't happen. And of course, it took a full season, obviously, and all kind of God's hand on us as a team, on the players, some luck somewhere in there, the drop of a ball or a tremendous catch or a shoestring tackle. Or it took all of those things, for us to make it back. And then once we made it back, there was absolutely no way we were gonna be denied. Period. And there's some disappointment involved in all of that for me as well. But the glory in it all is that we came out champions. That we as a team, as a family, we galvanized according to what had happened the previous year. We made a decision that we were going to do something. We decided that we were going to get back there, and step by step by step, we built that building and created the championship team that is the last national championship team. And I dare say right here on video, that if things don't change at Penn State, we will be the last national champion.
Man, I tell you what, had a
Wow.
good run this year. It's just Michigan. I mean, Ohio State and Michigan, obviously, but I think it'd be interesting next year with the new playoff system. I was thinking about it actually. To see if someone could sneak in. Obviously, Florida State and all that kind of drama where they didn't get in. They ended up getting waxed anyways in the bowl game. But it'll be interesting to see if, like, a Penn State, who's got a loss or two, now makes it to the playoff and they can kind of figure it out. You see Michigan once, you get them later down the road in that new playoff system. If something could change. But, yeah, you gotta get that big win. That's kind of what's been missing is that big win.
Yeah. And we got the big win when we won the Big Ten championship that year. We got the big win. Two players made exceptional, the block punt against Ohio State, the scoop and score, and then the very same two players made the fourth down tackle on the Wisconsin running back that sent us to play Southern Cal, and that was before the playoffs. We easily could have
Right.
been a playoff team. And well, I don't want to talk about the Southern Cal game. That just once again, man.
Well, Q, I mean, certainly going back to the Penn State days from 82 to 87 were some special years for the university. Certainly, what I mean by that is the football team, playing for 3 championships in that 5-year period. Certainly, some dominant football.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, I mean, and I love that moment too. That's the moment that I would have picked as well, back in, after that Orange Bowl, because it was such a pivotal moment for that group because we wanted a championship. We just didn't, I think, at least in my opinion, I think we wanted it, but we didn't actually understand the difference between wanting to be there versus wanting to win.
Yeah.
And so that lesson from my perspective was, okay, we learned how to get here. Now we have to learn how to win. And but I'm curious from your perspective, because, especially with your experiences from high school to college, playing on all those championship teams, but you still had to deal with some personal adversity, which we all deal with in some measure, right? But not just deal with it, you overcame. And I'm just curious, because our audience is all over the place in terms of where they come from in life and where they are. Really curious, how did you overcome adversity? What are the things that you did or needed to learn to do in order to achieve?
The first thing, I needed to go back to my roots and hear my grandmother's voice when she was telling me that there was greatness in me, that God had sent me here with great things in me to do great things for the kingdom. Even as a child, I believed her. I didn't understand fully. I believed her. So when I got off track to the point where I was lost in the fog and really couldn't find my way back, I knew that I needed to tap back into the Spirit of God that dwells in me, the greatness that dwells in me, and come into an intimate relationship with my Father through the Holy Spirit that I know dwells in me. And I knew these things I had forsaken and turned. Um, you know, for me, um, I got hooked. My body chemistry is different from the regular individual. Where when I drink alcohol, the acetone creates it doesn't make me want to stop. It creates a thirst for more. So I had to come to a place where I could depend and lean on the real spirit, the true spirit of God, and not these liquid spirits that I was pouring into myself, and all of the other detrimental things that would follow. So going back to the very beginning, and then building an intimate relationship with God, seeing into me, what God has created me to be, so that I could be an asset to myself and to my family and to the community at large, which makes me an asset to the kingdom, which is what I was created to be. So it took me back to sitting on my grandmother's lap under the Cheneyberry tree and her reading to me out of the family Bible, teaching me how to read right there, and her pouring into me that there was greatness in me and that there was great things that I would accomplish and for the kingdom, not for myself.
Yeah.
And that taking that selfishness, not for me, but for the kingdom, having that this 1/4 screw turn, that little bit of shift in my spirit, man, made me less angry about all of the what ifs and the what abouts and the pointing the finger to all of the outside things. Um, that little screw turn pointed the focus back on myself. And with the focus on myself, I knew that I needed to focus on my relationship with God, my vertical relationship, so that I could be the man that He's called me to be and sent me here to be.
Yeah, that's prioritize your focus and not focus on your personal priorities kind of thing. I like that quarter shift on the screw there. It's a good analogy. I know we want to talk about everything you're doing now with your mission and stuff, but before we get there, I want to talk about the Colts. Come on now, we got to talk about the NFL a little bit. I mean, you got drafted, you went to the NFL, you played linebacker for the Colts. Can you talk a little bit about that time in the league and even maybe, so you overcame these obstacles in life too? I mean, when you play in the NFL, there's so much more pressure and just, I mean, obviously I've talked to DJ about this in the past, some of our other guests, but there had to have been even more pressure at that point when you were in the NFL, not only like on the field, but all the off the field stuff as well.
Well, I can't. There's no outside source that can put pressure on me like I put on myself. Period. Um, so all I ever wanted to do was play. You give me a chance to play. Let me cross that line. Don't keep me over here on the sideline. Let me cross the line, and the world will be fine. And that's how the NFL played out. I mean, as long as I wasn't getting in my own way, everything was wonderful. I mean, I don't know. Now you see a lot of linebackers that are playing multiple positions, but in 1990, there weren't linebackers that could play inside, outside, strong side, weak side. And I was a guy that had the capacity and the ability to do all of those things in one game, and
So you were like LT.
yeah,
Wait a second. Isn't there a game where you actually played all four linebacker positions in the same game?
absolutely. Playing against Green Bay, I played all four backers. I started at weak side backer. Ended up playing some strong side. Then I had to play Mike, and then I had to
Mike.
play Will. I got to play all of those on a historic field at that. I mean, we were at County Stadium where at County. Did you ever play at County Stadium, D?
Oh, absolutely.
Where you both teams are on the same sideline?
Yes. Crazy.
Thing I had ever seen. And so that was yeah, I forgot you were in that conference, so you
Hmm.
had to do that on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty amazing for me. That was awesome. You know,
My linebacker days ended in 8th grade. They were like, "Yeah, you're a quarterback. You're not a linebacker. Why don't you go over there to the offensive side?"
nice. A lot of quarterbacks get turned to linebackers, so you
Yeah,
got
right. I was a tall guy, so yeah, bigger guy.
excellent.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, no, I was just saying, so when you were with Indianapolis, I mean, like obviously, like is one of the sacks one of your favorite memories, or like or a certain game, or like somebody you played with?
That game is a tremendous memory. Just the fact that I was on the team with Eric Dickerson. I grew up a Ram fan, so the Trojans, the Coliseum, the Rams, and all that stuff. The fact that I was on the squad with Eric, with ED, and one day in practice, boy, I caught him good. I could have wrecked his entire world. And of course I didn't, because he's Eric.
Yeah,
But
right,
I
right,
let him know. I said, "Boy, I had you that time. I had you." So that was tremendous. In my rookie season, um, you know what? I made the very first tackle on the very first play of my NFL career. We opened up against the Falcons in preseason, and on the kickoff team, I made the tackle, and it was a big play. I tackled the guy inside the 20-yard line. So that's huge for me. I my career ended with San Francisco, and I was a big backer with Indianapolis. We had a bunch of big backers. We were probably everywhere, all of us. Dwayne Bickett was about 255. I played at 255, 260. The inside, Jeff Harrod was about 255, 260. Um, Dude was probably 250. Um, so we had big backers. Well, when I went to San Francisco, they were like, "You got to lose weight." Not a problem. So I I went from, and this is something that I'm proud of. We had I was invited to a free agent camp in January. There was 193 players there, and we went to camp, month after month, and it was whittling down. From that 193 players, three of us got contracts. I was one of those three to get a contract, and I had moved up to first team. Will Backer, we ran a 4-3 out there, so I was the first team Will, which was off the ball, on the ball, back and forth, and I was down to 240 pounds, quicker than I had ever seen myself. I mean, these guys literally, in order for the first team to get reps, they had to take me off the field because I was destroying.
right.
And then the injury happened, um, and it was difficult. I to When you can still run with an injury, you think that you can will yourself to back. As long as I can run, well, I couldn't lift my arm. I couldn't protect myself, and wanting to get back on the field. I didn't know. They told me I had a torn capsule. I didn't know what that. I don't know what that means. All I know is, I can't lift my arm. I can't punch, um, and I'm trying to get back. I'm trying to get back. Well, Seifert comes to me, and he says, we're going to Spain next week. Will you be ready to play? I'm saying, yeah. All I heard was Spain and the Steelers, and I had wonderful games against the Steelers in Indianapolis. So I'm like, oh, I get to beat them cats up again, absolutely. Um, and I wasn't healthy. Um, what ended up happening is they gave me. I tried. I went out first day of practice, and I couldn't protect myself. I couldn't punch. So they gave me this pill, little bitty tablet, man, little bitty tablet. Told me to take a third of the tablet, and then he says to me, if you can't sleep, call me, and I'll give you some not Dramamine. What's the stuff for like hay fever? If you've got allergies, what's the stuff that you Benadryl?
Benadryl.
Benadryl.
Yeah, Benadryl.
Um,
Makes you sleepy.
so I take a third of the tablet, and it makes me. Alcohol wasn't my only. Cocaine was a major issue for me as well. So I take a third of this tablet, and it makes me feel like I'm on cocaine. And the next thing you know, it's curtains. There's nothing going on. I can't function. All I can do is I mean I had been clean for more than a year in preparation and working my way to being on this squad, and that took me out. And I come to find out years later, I'm back in New Jersey at my barber, and I'm sitting next to a guy, walk in and say hello, and we're sitting there, and my barber says, Quint, you know who that is you're sitting next to? I'm like, nah. And he says, Doc, do you know who that is? Doc says, no. Well, it was the orthopedic surgeon for the Giants. And we got to talking, and I told him what had happened, my injury, and he just shook his head. And I'm like, what? He said, that injury takes 2 years for an executive with a desk job to heal.
Wow.
2 years. And here I'm trying to get back in 2 weeks.
Right.
And that machine called the NFL, and when they released me, the doctor out there actually was Doc Kalinak's like roommate or something in college. He told me, he said, you should file a grievance because you're injured and they don't have a right to release you. But in my mind, I all I could remember was how I was destroying the San Francisco 49ers, who had just been to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I'm tearing up. Nobody can block me. I'm all over the place. Somebody's going to pick me up. That was my thought. That was my mentality. And I learned at the end of that season, when nobody had picked me up, my agent said, well, Seifert sent a note out. Don't touch Quintus McDonald. He's an antisocial turd. Yeah.
Oh, man. Man.
So, and that wasn't the first time. When I got released from the Colts, I went over and worked out for Cleveland. Had the round trip ticket for the same day. They told me, no, just go and stay in the hotel. We're going to put together a contract for you. And it just so happened, who did the Colts open up with that week? First game of the regular season. Cleveland. The Browns. And somehow somebody got to talking, and they told them that what my situation was, which I had a grievance with the NFL. They had a borderline test, and I paid to have that test retested. Said, I'm not dirty. You need to retest the test. And because it was in that state of flux, I still was able to play while they were doing the testing. But because of whoever said whatever to the Cleveland folks, they sent me home on Monday.
Oh, man.
So I put myself in those positions. I put myself in those situations, and it wasn't until I was able to look at myself and the choices that I had made, the things that I had done, and not point the finger at other people and say, well, it could have been, should have been, and this, that, the other. That's how I was able to redeem my life. Well, to get to God who is the Redeemer. When I stopped looking at everyone else and said, okay, Father, I'm the one, and it's me. I need to know what true intimacy is. And that's the conversation that I had on the train leaving Indianapolis, the 1201 train to Charlottesville on October 26th, the morning of 26th, 2010, when I gave it up again, and the Lord stepped in, and we've been rolling ever since.
Well, talk a little bit about what you're doing now. I mean, you have such a fascinating background and all these like lessons in life. I mean, I'd love to just hear more about kind of what you're doing now, how you've translated all this on the field, off the field experience into what you're doing now.
Well, I'm doing a number of things. That the I Am Recycling Incorporated. That's the nonprofit entity. That's an education entity. It's all about education. We also were fortunate enough to invest in a wellness company, which we're very, very proud of. So the wellness company, I don't know what just happened. Are you guys there? Or they changed the layout? The wellness company, I'm bugging out over here. Can you guys see me? Are we live? I can't hear you. I can't see you. I'm not sure what's going on. Well, I'm not sure. Um, what?
Yeah, he can hear us now.
I can.
We're gonna have to do a part two. Part two. We've never had to do a part two before.
Yeah.
To be continued.
I talk a lot. I can't see you guys, but I'll go ahead and answer the question. Our wellness company, we I have been in, my wife and I had both been in network marketing space for a number of years, going to um, present products to anyone else until we found a necessity product. And we actually found a necessity product that would combat the excessive hysterectomy issue here in the United States of 600,000 plus hysterectomies annually. And we are founders and co-owners of a brand called Rain, which is all natural, 100% organic feminine hygiene products. We launched June 1st of 2019, and obviously made it through the pandemic. We'll be celebrating 5 years of existence come June of this year. We are now in multiple countries, including Canada, Mexico, the Bahamas, working on Jamaica, Nigeria, and working on Ghana as we speak, also working on Germany. In fact, I've got to send some product to a person that's headed to Germany to talk business for us as we speak. That is on the for-profit side. But who I am is what I am recycling is that is the embodiment of who I am when it comes to impacting communities that have been either systematically left behind, or communities of individuals that have made poor decisions in their life, and now are fighting their way back, working their way back. So putting an end to the school to prison pipeline, which is predicated on third grade literacy scores, is the overall emphasis. That's well, not the overall. That is the life thread, the lifeblood of what we do from an education perspective. And we've been working in communities since 2011. We began as job development for the formerly incarcerated, and then back in 2008, and in 2010, after having my transformative train ride, had a conversation with the Lord, and told me sports camps. And I thought, Deke, I thought he was talking about that it was confirmation about the camps that Troy used to hold. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'll keep showing up. He's like, no, Quintus McDonald. So, in fact, yesterday was the 13th anniversary. What I was given by God, that was December 30th, and we began putting it together. And God, I was like, well, what should it look like? And He told me to create a program that made you the most recruited high school football player in the nation in 1984. So what that looked like was multiple sports, communication skills. So that goes back to literacy. So English and literacy, and then keeping your mind right, like that piece of mental growth, mental health, mental well-being. So we formulated a plan and reached out to the school system, to the Parks and Recreation that gave me my first job, to the youth summer camp program, which was called Grassroots, and then to the Montclair Neighborhood Development Corporation, which had all of the other the programs for youth in the summertime. And I reached out to the leaders in all of those areas, and asked for a meeting, and that meeting was held on President's Day 2011. So 13 years yesterday, we celebrate, that day where we all came together, and the community loved the idea. And that's how the Montclair Junior Sports Academy began, which was predicated on putting an end to the school to prison pipeline. And where we have grown to now, we are, in fact, my next meeting is for the finances and JV agreement with the owners of it's called Scotland Campus. It's a former military school that has over 70 structures on it. And we're going to go in there and create the first ever postgraduate alternative education school. So we'll be teaching all of the things that are not being taught in colleges, things that will help our young people move into the marketplace immediately, maybe after 2 years, but being able to go ahead and begin their lives, begin their productive lives, and of giving back whatever their giftedness is, without having $200,000-300,000 worth of student loan debt. So we're very excited about that portion of what it is that we're doing at I Am Recycling. And we are an umbrella for community heroes nationwide, as well as globally. Actually, we've got contacts outside of this country, but not only in Montclair, New Jersey, but in Allentown, Pennsylvania, in Indianapolis, here in Raleigh, over in Durham, in Atlanta, the DeKalb County, Atlanta area. So that's who I Am Recycling is, and that's really truly who an embodiment of who I am. as a human being.
Well, of course, Q, that's tremendous. I've known of some of those programs and activities, businesses that you're involved in. And Mike, who's involved in multiple businesses, I think you built cereal. Let's say cerealpreneurs or cereal.
Something like that, whatever the new acronym words that are. We like to start a lot of businesses. Crazy is what it is, Q. Well, I know I had a treat meeting you on the sidelines at the Iowa game, and I know it was brief, and it was good to get to know you even more today. And you got a fascinating background, and I think it's worth like a follow-up maybe episode where we can dive in even deeper. But we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you both for having me. And I look forward to meeting you again. This time I'll remember for probably a week or two, but I will remember. I certainly remember.
It's all them hard hits you gave in the NFL.
Well, yeah, that's it's par for the course. But you know what? And many of us would probably say we do it all over again. I would certainly volunteer to do it all over again. Would I do it differently? Yes. It was a different game when DJ and I played. I mean, the things that we did in practice are completely illegal and banned, and we did it, day after day after day after day, sometimes in the beginning of camp 3 times a day. We had triple sessions the first 3 days of camp. That is completely unheard of. So things are a little bit different now, and rightfully so. I don't mind when I forget some things, because I can look at these youngsters today and know that I helped to pave the way for them, so that they can play this game that we all love at a high level without the risk of what I live with today. And I'm okay with what I live with. I'm all right with it. I do it a little differently, but I'm all right with where I am today, because God got God on my side, brother.
I think that's a part of all of us is getting older in general, right? Especially you got kids, man, they wear you out. I got one more question for you before we go and wrap up. Hold on now. When you were talking about Eric Dickerson earlier and how you had him locked up and like in a practice, did you ever have DJ like that one time in your sights at a practice where you could have lit him up and you didn't?
No, I can't
No?
say that I did. I think if I mean, at Penn State, if you got somebody in your sights, and when we went one-on-one, when we went 1 versus 1, it was always stud on the running backs. It was always stud. Now fullback situation, that was 100% live. Deke was not fullback. Deke was the running back. So fullbacks were like defensive ends at Penn State. So that was always live.
Cool. Well, thanks for taking the time to be with us today, Q. We really appreciate it, man. We hope you have a blessed day, and good luck with all the things you're doing now in the world. It's pretty amazing to hear your story.
Well, God bless you. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to the follow-up, man. I'm gonna hold you to that, brother.
All right, let's do it. We'll get you queued up. There you go. There you go.
I like it.
Complete pun intended, right?
Exactly. All right. Well, have a good day. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right. God bless.
All right. Cheers.